Tuesday, everyone. I am delighted to be here with all of you, and I want to welcome all of you who are joining. And you can see we've got a ticker going below right now that says, hey, thanks for joining us. Please comment below and let us know if you are watching live or maybe you're watching the replay later and maybe where in the world you're watching from. We find that a lot of these shows are reaching viewers from all over the world. Maybe you're in Metro Detroit, where I'm at today, or maybe you're elsewhere watching us, but please do drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from. While we're waiting to do that, I want to introduce you to my guest, Joan Frank of Be Frank Communications. Hey, Joan, how are you doing today?
Hello, Brenda. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Likewise, and Joan and we were talking in the pre-show, and I want to tell our audience. I was asking Joan, I'm like, do you remember where we met, and have we ever met in person? And we I think we connected back in 2021. I helped you with some LinkedIn work back then, and we kind of circle each other's wagons a lot within our networks, but we've never actually met in person. But I feel like you're that kind of person. I feel like we know each other so well. I can't believe we've not met in person, right?
I think it's so insane, but after this podcast interview, we are going to set up a time to meet in person.
Let's do it.
100%. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that as well.
Good. And so we're going to wait for our audience to come in. And I want to let our audience know when you do drop a comment below, it lets us know that the live stream is picking up. So do not be shy. Even if it's just a little thumbs up emoji, that lets me know that the live stream is live and working. Every now and again, I get a little bit of a hiccup where StreamYard doesn't properly give the baton over to LinkedIn or YouTube. And I don't know unless someone messages and lets me know that that's the case. But if you are watching this live, just give us a quick thumbs up emoji or something inside comments to let us know the stream's going. While we're waiting for those comments to come in, Joan, I know there's about a 30-second delay from the time I say that until the time they hear it. And then they try to think of something clever to put into the comments. But while we're waiting for those to come in, I know a bit about you and your business, but I'd like you to take a few minutes, if you could, Joan, and tell us, what is your business? Tell us your name. What's the name of your business? What do you do? And who do you help?
Okay, so I'm Joan Frank. I own Be Frank Communications. We are a boutique PR and communications firm. I represent clients at this point all over the country, and I feel very lucky to do what I love. My background, I grew up in the advertising world and always gravitated towards PR. It seems to be an intuitive gift that I have. And I can immediately meet somebody and know how I can help them, what their story is if they don't know what their story is, angles to help them generate media. And I intentionally have a very diversified client base because it keeps my brain moving all the time.
That's great. And you and I were talking in the pre-show too, how sometimes you're more often behind the camera than you are in front of the camera,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you do great work. And I've seen the work of so many of your clients. You do such a great job as their PR strategist, helping them with media, but also showcasing the work that you do as well. And which is a great setup for the conversation we're going to be having today, which is how PR can help to build your credibility and grow your business. So let's jump right in here, Joan, and let's assume there's people that are watching, they're self-employed, and maybe they've thought about public relations, media outreach, but they're not even sure where to get started and why is it even important. What advice will you have for them?
So first of all, I think PR, the real purpose of PR is to build credibility. And it's such a great opportunity for PR professionals because, and this is what I say to prospective clients all the time, whether you're an author or you're a doctor or a psychologist, it doesn't matter what you are, but PR gets you in front of the media and a prospective audience for you. And when people are looking to, again, if you're looking for a doctor or you're looking for a stylist, when you have a PR person that is generating media pickup for you,
Mm-hmm.
automatically, when people are searching, their perception is, oh my gosh, this person really knows what they're doing. Because if they didn't know what they were doing, they wouldn't be on the news. They wouldn't have articles written about them. They wouldn't be interviewed on podcasts. So it really is a great vehicle to build your credibility and get your name out there. So people call, reach out.
I love it. And I think what's interesting is when we see people whose businesses is on the news or in the media, and you mentioned, we're like, wow, that was so cool. How did that reporter find them? Or how did that outlet find them? And I think what people don't realize is that a majority of the time, it's not like the reporters are going out and the outlets are going out and finding these people. It's PR professionals and PR agencies, agents, right, are finding those opportunities
Yes.
for
Yes.
them.
So, yeah, one of the other, I think, benefits of working with a PR person is we spend a very long time cultivating our relationships with the media. And I hear this all the time. I'm really lucky because I've had this business 28 years, and I have producers and writers, who say to me, when we get an email from you, we know it's something really good and we want to pay attention to it.
Mhm.
And for the layperson, you could reach out, you could send an email trying to get a story placed somewhere. But the reality is, media is inundated on an hourly basis with people trying to get them to cover something that they're doing. And
Mhm.
you kind of just fall into this vast wasteland. But when
Mm.
you work with a professional who has existing relationships, they pay attention and they are very quick to pick up your pitch and get the ball rolling, so to speak. So
That's and I think a lot of people probably feel intimidated by reaching out to the media. Can they do that themselves, or is it best to work through
absolutely. No,
someone?
I mean,
Okay.
listen, you can absolutely do that. I think that the likelihood of actually being picked up and getting a story placed and an interview placed is fairly low, but it does happen. I will say, particularly if you're a nonprofit and you have an event going on, I think that that's a great example of when the media may reach out to you. But I think for other things, it's far more challenging. So, if you have the opportunity to talk to a PR professional and, see what they can do for you, take that opportunity because it
Yeah.
could really be a game changer in terms of building your credibility and building your business.
And I think, what's interesting about this concept is very similar to when you're working with a coach or somebody who specializes in a specific area. So, for example, I'm going to say, bookkeeping. I'm a marketer. I'm a LinkedIn coach. That's what I do. I do not
Right,
do the numbers, Joan, and
right.
I have
And you're very
calculators.
good at what you do, Brenda. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
and similar for you, and it's like I know what I'm good at, and I know what I
Mhm.
enjoy spending my time on
Right.
doing, and I know what I don't enjoy doing, and that's where, it's sometimes better to pay and find an expert to help you with that
100%.
work. So, talk to us about that process. When should we be thinking about finding a professional to help us with media outreach versus doing it on our own? What do you think?
Honestly, I think all the time you should be reaching out because this is the thing. When you're working with a PR specialist, again, one of my greatest gifts is my creativity. And I have this like intuitive knowing when I meet a prospective client. And it doesn't matter if you own a retail store, if you're doing injections, to look younger. Everybody's got a story and everybody's got a hook. And I think so often people have no idea what those things are. And I walk
Mm.
in, I'm on a call, and it's like immediate. I'm like, okay, this is your story, even if you don't realize it. And this is what's going to take you from A to B. So yeah, I find that all the time. And I think if it's not in your wheelhouse,
Mhm.
then you got to find somebody whose wheelhouse it is. And I do the same thing. I needed help with LinkedIn. It's not my forte. I reached out to you. But I just think, you know what? We all want to be really smart about how we
Mhm.
work and what we're doing to build our businesses.
Yeah, that's a good point. And having access to the experts. I mean, let's talk about this point of this is part of the title of today's talk: how PR can help to build your credibility and grow your business. So, actually investing in somebody to help you with the media outreach and the PR part of your business can help you to grow your business. So, talk to us about that. Just generally speaking, how can being placed in the media or picked up in a TV interview lead to new business? It might seem evident to some, but maybe not so evident, right?
Well, I think that people, listen, people are watching the news, people are reading. And
Mhm.
again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about credibility. You know, when people are watching TV, and we'll go back and say somebody is an on-trend stylist. Okay, and you're sitting there and you know that you got to up your game for work. Maybe you don't have a huge budget, maybe you do, but you don't even know where to start, right? Getting somebody that visibility, and somebody watches and they're like, oh my gosh, you know what? I really need this. I'm going to reach out. Um, the same thing applies. I have a client who is an author and a manifestation expert. And when I first started working with her, she really wanted to get her name out. And we have been working together over 2 years. And literally, she has developed such an incredible fan base that I've got her doing events here. We're going to LA to do an event. So it's that type of, those are opportunities that don't just happen. They're created when you're working with a PR specialist. So, it's getting you out there. It's getting, you have no idea how many people are looking for whatever service or product you have. So I think, again, it's a very smart way to be strategic in terms of building your business. And, you have to look at it as an investment in growth.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us, if we're self-employed, we're very conscientious about when we invest. And I always try to align my
Yes,
expenses with my
100%.
income,
Yeah,
right? But there comes a certain point where you're just spending a lot of time doing, and I'm speaking to my audience right now. I know this is not just me. I'm doing something and I'm like, I know I need to do this bookkeeping or whatever it is, right? Social media ads, like things I don't enjoy doing. And
yeah,
I know there are people out there that are experts that can do this for me faster and get results quicker.
yeah,
And then I can do what I enjoy best, doing LinkedIn coaching, doing public speaking, the other things, team
right,
training, the other things that I really enjoy doing. But sometimes it's the whole like knowing when to invest and work with an expert, and when it makes sense to outsource. So is
right.
this something you recommend to someone at the beginning of their business journey, Joan? Or is this something,
You
should
know,
we wait until our business is up and going? What do you think?
I think any time actually is a good time for PR because, for example, if you're a new business, you want to
Mhm,
hit the ground running and you want to set
mhm,
yourself up for success. And, oftentimes in new business, it takes a while for people to know you're out there, to understand what you're doing. And if you work with a PR specialist, then that's something we do for you pretty automatically.
mhm,
And the same applies, I one of the services that I offer is consulting because I find that there are a lot of companies who think they're doing PR or think, whatever they think they're doing. The reality is they're not doing it the right way. And so I get to come in and say, okay, you should be doing A, B, C, D, and E. Forget is, E, F, and G, right? So, and then it doesn't matter at what phase of their business they are, because once they commit to doing PR, they're going to see results pretty quickly, I feel.
that's good. And I'm wondering, as you were talking, I was thinking, you probably, when you're first starting to work with someone, you're like, what are you doing now? You're probably seeing some things that are maybe common mistakes. And I don't know if I'm using the word correctly when I say mistakes, but what not to do as it relates to trying to do media outreach or trying to get picked up by reporters or,
Right.
into
Well,
that coveted TV spot. So what would
right.
you offer as advice there?
Well, I think a lot of times a layperson has really no idea what has media value.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just that simple. Like I recently was doing some consulting work for a nonprofit, and I asked to see some of the press releases that a former company did, and I was just shocked to see some of the press releases that they had composed had no media value. And yet they were surprised that they didn't have any media pickup. So again, I think when you're working with, an expert in PR, we know immediately where your hook is. And we know, and I say this to clients all the time, be frank communications. I tell it like it is. If you have a great idea, I'm going to tell you. But if you have a really bad idea, I'm going to tell you too. Right. Because it's kind of like, look, everybody has a gift, and
Hmm.
for me, it's how I see things. It's how I breathe.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of either you have it or you don't, I think. Like you said, I'm not a numbers girl. I mean, thank goodness for my account.
Yeah.
But I know with my eyes closed, when I meet somebody, what their story is, what their hook is, where we can get media coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it's almost like your name is perfect for what you do. When you said Be Frank, I was looking down, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Her last name is Frank. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so my maiden name is Zawacki, and my joke when I was growing up is I'm gonna be a psychologist someday because Zawacki, right? And
Oh, that's so funny.
right?
Yes. And here
And
you are.
now I'm a Meller, and it's very close to Miller beer, right? So there's
Yes,
different
yes.
plays on
So,
words, but I love how your name is working into the name of your business, but it's
yeah.
also, I think, a part of your personal values and your approach to working with your clients. I think that's what I heard you say. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I was just lucky. My middle name is Brooke. Last
Mm.
name is Frank. So it just kind of worked out.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
kind of just like, how could you walk away from it's
Right.
like perfect
Exactly.
opportunity for a business name like that.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yes.
So, and if you're just joining us now, we're here today talking with Joan B. Frank on how PR can help to build your credibility and grow your business. I want to shift a bit to the word credibility in here, and
Mhm.
this whole concept of building your credibility. Why is that important to someone who's maybe self-employed or a small business owner, or maybe a nonprofit that's watching here? What would you say?
I think it differentiates you from everybody else.
Mm,
And I think also in this day and age, sometimes you can't really tell who's real, what's real. There's a lot of lip service that goes on,
mhm,
but building credibility really then helps take you to a different level. And I think again, any industry you're in, everybody wants to build their credibility. Everybody wants to be respected in what they do.
mhm.
And there are definitely, very specific ways to do that.
Yeah. I have to imagine, Joan, that you've been successful all along in your business. Like this, to me, I feel like when you first launched your business, you were an immediate success with this approach. And, would you agree with that? Or tell us a little bit about the background story for you.
I think probably, look,
Mhm.
I have always had this knowing when it comes to PR.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm really good at what I do, but I also love what I do. It
Mhm.
brings me joy. And I always say every time I get a new client or I get somebody, a media hit, I'm like a kid in a candy store. You would
Mhm.
think it was the first time. And I've had my business over 28 years now.
Wow. Hmm.
So, the one thing I do a lot of self-reflection. I think when I first went out on my own,
Hmm.
um, confidence and imposter syndrome were big issues. So, fortunately over the years, I'm really sitting in a space where I know my value and I know what I can bring to the table.
Hmm.
Uh, but I definitely have always had the gift of being able to, share something to get media interested. When it comes to new business meetings, I immediately know if I can work with somebody or not. It's instantaneous for me. So, I feel really lucky. Yeah, and
That's
I've,
awesome.
it's been lots of successes and lots of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell people it's like a little bit of a roller coaster when you're in business for yourself. You have some
I
really great,
know.
exciting months. And I sometimes will talk about there's sometimes some softer months. They're never bad months because every month is
Right,
a good month,
right.
and similar to you, whenever I have a client win, somebody I've been working with maybe to help them position themselves for a job search, they get a new job, or maybe
Mhm.
somebody who has been hesitant on using LinkedIn is now proud of their profile and they're leaning into it and they're like, this works finally. Like to me,
Yes,
it's like, yes, this is the why, the things that
yes.
you and I both do that helps to fuel us. But what I love about this is you're kind of the outside person looking in, because I think sometimes it's hard to say, and I use this example for media, what's the media value of that? And we're not talking
Mhm.
about monetary value. We're talking about, why would a reporter or a publication want to house you on their platform? What
Right,
value is it
right.
to their viewer and listener, right? Can you talk a little bit
Yep.
more about that?
So, I think again, putting on my PR hat, it
Mhm.
for me, I can look at it if you're planning an event, if you're opening a new business, I know how to package it. That's the best word. It's a bit of packaging to
Mhm.
make it enticing for the reporter. It's it is just It's so hard to describe because it's so how I'm able to see things.
Mhm.
And I think that, again, let's say you're a retail store. Okay, so you're going to reach out to the media because you have, this new line you're carrying. It's not a lot of media value with that.
Mhm.
But, there are ways to expand that, put a twist on it, whether it be maybe a local charity event or something that's relevant to something going on, whatever state you live in. And there you go. Then all of a sudden you're pitching blindly to actually creating something that has, media value.
I love it. And you just reminded me of there's an acronym, the WIFM, the what's in it for me. And I
Mm,
think this acronym really intersects what I do, marketing and LinkedIn with what you do in PD in public relations
yes.
and media relations as well. It's the what's in it for me. So we
Yeah.
we always have to be thinking about who is the intended audience and why do they care? Like a lot
Right.
to your example, launching a new product in your store if you're a retailer is really exciting to you and maybe it's a labor of love and it's finally here. But what's
Mhm,
in it to them, to not just the reporter you're pitching it to, but to the
mhm.
the end user and the viewer,
Right.
and, that's a focus of the angle. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, here's another example. One of the retail stores I represent every year does they do an event because
Mhm,
they always are supporting people in need. So if you bring a gently pair of used jeans,
mhm,
those jeans are donated and they offer you a percentage off on a new pair.
mhm.
So that's a great example of something that maybe doesn't necessarily, oh, you need jeans, come into the store. And now they've given you a reason and a purpose and
Mhm.
feeling good about yourself because you're helping somebody else.
Yeah. I love it, and I think I know the retailer. I'm not gonna name names on
All
here.
right.
I'll let I'll
They're
let you
fun.
name it if you wanna
Yeah.
give any shout outs, but I know a lot of times, we're in this world nowadays where, we wanna make sure that we're disclosing. Are we being sponsored or paid by a client to give them
Right.
the shout outs and things like that? And
Yes.
sometimes we don't wanna pull the curtain back on if a strategy is in place right now. You wanna be respectful of that
Yes.
client provider relationship that's in
Yes.
there, but
But there's
I
so
always
many examples of things like that, Brenda, where you
yeah.
can really help somebody
Mhm.
to create something that really has media value.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
I love it. Well, I've been asking Joan so many great questions, and I want to invite our audience. This is your opportunity. If this is a PR expert we have, I'm going to point over her. PR expert Joan is sitting right here. So do not be shy. If you have any questions, and you can use the I have a friend technique. I have a friend who was wondering how to find email addresses for reporters at my local TV. You can use that technique, and Joan will help you out with that. Don't be shy.
Mhm.
While we're waiting to see if any additional questions are coming in, I want to ask, if you are doing this on your own, Joan, do you
Mhm.
recommend you're kind of tracking this? And if so, is there any numbers or metrics that we should be looking at? Or is it just, the instance of getting picked up in the media that we should be paying attention to? What do you
So
think?
I think that's a great question, Brenda. One of the things I always encourage my clients to do is track how somebody hears about them.
Hmm.
If they walk into the store, say, "Oh, it's your first time here. How did you hear of us?" Or your phone's ringing because you have a product you're selling, or you're a doctor, and you are trying to build your business. That is a really important thing to do. You need to track so that you know what's working and what's not working. Hypothetically, you could be running ad on radio, you could be advertising, and you could be doing PR. Find out or if you're even buying, ad boosting on social media, that keep a record because that'll really help you going forward. Invest time, money, and energy into what's working versus what's not.
That's a really good point. And a lot of times when we are self-employed or solopreneurs, we're looking at the ROI, the return on investment. So I'm spending this effort, or I might be investing in a PR strategist, a consultant to help
Mhm.
me. So what's the return that I'm getting on that? And then how do I tie that back to my bottom line? And just asking that question, asking your new clients how they heard about you, asking in person, asking through
Mhm.
email, asking through whatever format, and then tracking that. I think just getting in the habit, it's creating that new habit, Joan. You might not be doing
Yes,
this now, right? But
yes,
starting to do
yes.
that.
Yeah. And it's a pretty
Yeah.
easy thing to do. If somebody's
Mhm.
answering the phone, just, make an appointment. Oh, by the way, how did you hear from us?
Yeah.
It's, not terribly time intensive.
Yeah. I like it. So let me ask another question too. There might be somebody watching who's thinking, I've got, local TV stations in my metro area, but they don't care about a business like me. They're not going to pick up on my story. What would you say to that?
I'm sorry, Brenda. Will you say that one more time? Because my phone was supposed to be off and
Oh,
it
that's
was
okay.
ringing. I'm sorry.
No, and by the way, we are live. I don't know if everyone knows that we are live, and I always tell people we don't make mistakes. We have learning experiences. Now, the good thing is I did not hear that phone ringing,
Oh, I'm
but this
so
is
glad.
right. But if this was an overly produced podcast and pre-recorded, all of that would have been
Right.
edited out. So now you all know this is live. That's
Right.
on
At
here.
least my son does call me periodically. Yes.
New client call coming in maybe for
Right.
you.
There you go.
So my question was, there might be somebody who's watching who's like, okay, I'm in Metro Detroit and there's, 3 major TV stations that have news stories. I see the
Mhm.
Saturday shows and
Yep.
I see other businesses being featured with their products or
Mhm.
services, things like that. But I don't think my business is interesting enough to be featured on those shows.
Okay.
What would you say to them?
I would say give me a call because once I learn what your business is, I can easily help you um, map out ways. Either you just don't know what the hook is, or I can
Mhm.
help you create that hook. Because that's one of the things I really excel at.
Yeah, I love it, and I wanna remind people what she just said there. There's kinda 2 paths. One is mapping out the way to get that media coverage, to do the pitching and things like that, and the other part is developing the hook. What is it that's going to be of interest to those outlets? Remember the WIFM I talked about earlier, the what's in it for me? Like, people like Joan can help you with that approach and get you on those Saturday morning shows that we all see our friends, and I see them all the time, when I'm seeing the Saturday shows, I'm like, oh, Annie from the Birmingham Bloomfield Arts Center, she's on the Saturday morning.
Yes.
I'll reach out to her and I'll take a picture and I'll send them like, Annie, I saw you on the news this,
Mhm.
this afternoon, and it's always exciting to see folks that are going at that. Now, let's say there's someone who wants to try this on their own and they
Mhm.
do want, I'm going to use the I have a friend question. I have a friend
Yes.
who's wondering, how do I get email addresses for reporters? Is it as
Mhm.
easy as going to the website? To the newsroom, or how do we, if we
No,
want to try this on our own, how do we find those addresses?
that is actually a very, very tricky thing. Years ago, even for PR professionals, there was this book called Finder Binder, and you could go to the library and it would be updated periodically, and you could look, in your city and find out the names of producers and writers, etc. The game has changed quite a bit since then. So if you're really looking, reaching out to newsrooms is a good start because they will tell you, where you can send a pitch to. If you're looking in print, you can certainly like look in a newspaper, a magazine, and generally, if you like an article somebody has written, you can jot down their information and then reach out to them. But otherwise, other than those of us that do this day in and day out, and and the changing of the guards, but we're still very aware of who to pitch to. Otherwise, there are very expensive services that you can become a member of that will give you updated media lists, not just locally, but you know, nationally and globally.
Yeah, good point. You made me think of a resource, and I think they still exist. I haven't really looked at their list lately, but Harrow, Help a Reporter Out.
Yeah,
Is that still something? And what are your thoughts
well,
on using that?
they're not, but the guy that founded it now has
Hmm.
started something else. And
Hmm.
sometimes that can be a historically that was could be a very, very good tool. I think I would say probably over the last year or so, there were a number of like requests, and they were for outlets that, nobody knew of. And
Hmm.
sometimes it was like for people that weren't even in the media. So you have to kind of do your due diligence and be very selective if you're going to, respond to something like that. But that being said, I definitely have experienced, some really nice national pickup when Harrow was, up and running.
Yeah. And I tried it a couple times over the years, and I never got any pickups from it. And I wasn't
Yeah.
leaning as heavily into public relations and media relations as I probably should, Joan,
Right. I was
but
just gonna say, that's why, Brenda, you need to be working with a professional.
There you go. Somebody who
Yep.
can help to see your blind spots, who can help with that positioning, with that hook. I think it's all, having
Exactly.
that expert by your side, especially if you are a small business owner or self-employed and you don't
Yep.
have all of the different facets. Remember me, I'm not a math person, right? So we know, I think
There you
knowing what
go.
you're good at, right?
Mhm. Exactly. Listen, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I used you for my LinkedIn page because that's not in my wheelhouse.
That's great. And I'm so
Mhm.
glad and grateful for that. And you're obviously so passionate about media relations and public relations. And I come from a corporate marketing background where that was a part of my job, but we would outsource it and have an agency or an independent consultant help us with the work. And I have to say that
Mhm.
the money was always very well spent. It
Mhm.
always generated media coverage for us. And I was not able to get that on our own, both because of interest and time. You're pulled in a
Mhm.
million different directions. And we're
Absolutely.
here, talking about how PR can help to build your credibility and grow your business. And this is really something that can help with businesses of any sizes, whether you are a solopreneur all the way up to big business. And I want to
Absolutely.
start to change gears here, Joan,
Mhm.
and I'm going to first pull up your LinkedIn profile. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to share it on screen and ask if you are open to connecting with people that are watching on the show, whether they're watching this live playback or maybe they're watching the podcast later.
Absolutely. I would welcome new connections, questions. Um, so yes, thank you.
All right, wonderful. And I have her profile up on screen. If you happen to be listening on the podcast, you'll need to go to linkedin.com/in/Joan Frank PR, just like it sounds, JoanFrankPR. And do mention that you saw or heard her on the conversation with Brenda Maurer. That way she'll know the source. Remember, we asked about earlier, how did you hear from me? Give her a little bit of a heads up on that. And then the other thing I'd like to do, Joan, if it's okay with you, is I'm going to pull up your website, Be Frank
Mhm.
Communications, and tell us a bit. There might be somebody who's listening to us on the show here today who's like, maybe I should be talking to Joan. So
Mhm.
summarize for us, what are the services and offerings that you do for your clients?
So that's a great question. Obviously, PR strategy. A lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, we come in, or I really come in as a consultant and really review what somebody's doing and then make recommendations across the board. And even social media, websites. Um, we offer, graphic design
Hmm.
and obviously also, writing. So let's say you want to start a blog, I can connect you with ghostwriters um, and yeah, PR campaigns.
All right,
So
wonderful. And
that's
is
all
there a
in my
certain type of client that's a best fit for you? You mentioned nonprofits earlier, but do
Yeah,
you work with small businesses, large businesses, mainly nonprofits? Talk to us about that.
I would say I definitely work with nonprofits. I work with solopreneurs. I work with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, people in the health arena, authors.
Mm.
One of the things I really enjoy is, helping somebody who has got no media platform really build that out to develop a national presence.
Hmm.
So, that's a little bit more of a commitment in terms of time and relationship. But I really, really enjoy that. And then, of course, mom and pop shops as well.
Yeah. And I'm just scrolling because when you're talking about national platforms, I'm just kind of scrolling on your homepage here.
Yeah.
And it looks like these are media outlets that you've had your clients picked
Mhm.
up on. And it's not just the Fox 2 Detroit, but it's also
Yeah.
Forbes and Yahoo.
Yeah.
And you've got Fox Chicago, Forbes Home,
Yeah.
a lot of different Market Watch, a lot of very reputable publications and outlets here in
Yeah.
your list. And my guess is you have some professional relationships and contacts at all of these organizations as well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that would be fair to say. And, I'm always up for making new acquaintances and developing more relationships.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Wonderful.
indeed.
Good.
Mhm.
Well, I want to start to wrap up our conversation today, and I want to give a shout out to Pam, who's watching us on YouTube.
Hi,
Do you know
Pam.
Pam Lippitt with the Hill Street Group by
I
chance, Joan?
do. Yes, we have worked together before.
Wonderful. And thank
Mhm.
you so much for joining us here, Pam. As we start to wrap up our conversation here today, and we were here with Joan talking about how PR can help to build your credibility and grow your business. Any final comments that you'd like to offer to our audience here?
I think the one thing I would say is don't be shy about reaching out. If you want to learn more about PR, or you even want somebody to kind of give you some tips in terms of, things you can do to begin a media outreach, or even if you're not sure where to start or what your story is. Because again, I work with clients on a consulting basis, as well as, retainer basis. And I love when somebody picks my brain.
I love it. Great. Well, I want to thank you so much, Joan. This was such a great conversation. Lots of great resources, some things to think about, and knowing your expertise, I know a little bit more about you and can be able to refer some business to you in the coming year. So thank you again so much for
Brenda,
joining.
thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed our conversation. So much fun.
You're
Let's do
welcome.
it again soon.
I can't believe we've not met in person. We gotta
Yes,
we gotta make
we're
this happen.
changing that. Yes,
Yeah,
we're
we
going to
I
change
see
it.
some of your Instagram posts and you'll say it's Martini Monday. I'm like, Martini
Yeah,
Monday. Like
yeah.
I didn't
Oh my
discover
gosh.
until my adulthood, and I don't drink that much, Joan, but I
Yeah,
didn't discover until my adulthood that I like martinis. Like dirty martinis are my favorite. So can we get a martini sometime, my
I'm
friend?
ready. You tell me when, and it's a done deal. Absolutely. And we could do
Wonderful.
a Martini Monday video together.
Woo, let's do that.
Yeah.
I love it. Wonderful. Hey, our audience, if I just want to thank all of you for watching, whether you're watching this live or in playback. As soon as you're done watching the video, wherever you are or listening to the podcast, I invite you to share it along with a friend or a connection, somebody who might be struggling with getting some more visibility for their business, who might be thinking about PR media outreach, and maybe share with them a tip or something that you really gained from watching us here today. With that said, we'll let everyone get back to their day. And I want to invite you to come on out to my website, go to mellermarketing.com/live, and you can see a list of upcoming shows. With that said, have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you all on LinkedIn. Bye, everyone.
Thanks again. Bye bye.